What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another review video. Big shout out goes out to Happyrun for reaching out to me again and asking me to review one of their dual battery, dual motor e-bikes. This is the G70 Pro model. And just for size comparison, I am 5'8", I weigh 160 pounds. And this is what I look like on this bike. I must say that the seat is so comfortable on this. I'll show you that later. The sitting position is pretty nice and comfortable. As far as the suspension, we do have adjustable fork with preload and compression, and it is very nice. It's still a generic fork. I've seen them before, but it's on the higher end of generic forks. And in the rear, we have a monoshock, which is medium stiffness, I would say. Pretty good. Of course, we're going to be testing all of that off-road. In this review, I'm going to go over everything there is to know about this electric bike. I'm going to talk about the specs. I'll do a speed test, a brake test. I'm going to ride around and talk about the riding experience. And as an added bonus, we'll take it on an off-road trail just to see its off-road capabilities. As always, there will be chapters down below, so feel free to skip around to whatever part is of interest to you. But first, let's get started with the specs. So this is the Happyrun G70 Pro electric bike. It features dual 2500 watt peak hub motors, one in the front and one in the rear, combined with dual batteries. The one on the top is 48 volts, 18 amp hours, and the one on the bottom is 48 volts, 15 amp hour, for a combined total of 33 amp hours. Happyrun claims that this should give you a range of up to 85 miles, depending on riding mode and riding conditions, of course. We have 20-inch by 4-inch fat tires, coupled with hydraulic brakes with a 160mm rotor in the front and a 203mm rotor in the rear. That is huge. This bike also has a front fork with adjustable preload and compression, as well as a rear monoshock for a smooth, comfortable ride. We have a Shimano 7-speed with the Shimano derailleur, a very large, comfortable seat, a passenger seat, as well as passenger foot pegs. In the front of the bike, we have a headlight that is decently bright, as well as front turn signals. And in the rear, we have a taillight, an active brake light, as well as turn signals. That is very nice. The total weight of this bike is 101 pounds with the max load capacity of 330 pounds. And up on the handlebars, we have our rear brake, a half twist throttle, and our Shimano gear changer. In the center, we have a nice color display. And on the left side, we have our front brake, our headlight switch, turn signal switches, and a horn. And that is pretty much it for the specs. Now, as far as the price, this current model goes for $16.99, but I will have a discount code for you guys if you're interested in this bike. That'll be in the description down below. Now, before I continue, just a few things that stand out to me on this bike is, first of all, I love the way it looks. The second thing is obviously the dual motors. That is a very nice feature, and if you've never experienced an e-bike with dual motors before, you're missing out. It is a crazy experience. The last thing are these dual batteries, which will give you an insane amount of range. Now, the downside is it does add weight to the bike, so the bike will become heavier, but I would take range all day long for a little bit more weight. But with all that stuff being said, let's jump into our speed test. Alright, now before I do the speed test, I do want to show you the starting procedure on this bike. We do have the dual batteries, and they do have an on-off switch. You don't have to turn both of them on, but you need to turn on at least one. So flick that on in order for the bike to turn on. I'm going to be switching both of them on just for the sake of the review. Now, this bike does come with 2 NFC cards that you need in order to turn the bike on. There's an S button over here. Hold that down for a few seconds, and it's going to ask for the NFC card. Put that up to the screen, and the bike will turn on. This bike does have 5 pedal assist modes, and you switch between them by clicking the S button once. Now, the bike ships in dual motor mode, and that's how it is out of the box. And there is a way to switch between dual motor mode and single motor mode. It is a bit more complicated. You have to turn the bike off and hit the the throttle and the brake at the same time while turning the bike on, and it will switch between the modes. A little bit more complicated, but technically you have 10 different riding modes, 5 in single motor mode and 5 in dual motor mode. For my speed test, I'm going to be testing dual motor mode in pedal assist mode 5. So I got my phone's GPS app open and the speed reset. I'll throw that in my pocket and let's see how fast this thing can go. Okay, so right off the bat, pretty good torque. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this bike without any load, which is unrealistic, should hit 36 miles an hour. Now, it is a bit windy today. Of course, we're not going to be able to hit 36, but anything over 30 will be nice considering my weight. Bike is showing 33. It's bouncing between 32 and 33. But it is a bit windy right now. All right. Let's stop and see what our GPS has to say. Oh, wow. Would you look at that? My GPS is showing 34.9. That is excellent. Now, I reviewed a lot of e-bikes, and most of the time, whatever the display shows, you're actually getting a little bit less. In this case, the display bounced between 32 and 33, and we actually got almost 35 miles an hour. That is very nice. So 34.9 miles an hour, and I weigh 160 pounds, and it is a bit windy today, which means if there was no wind or if you weigh less than what I weigh, you can definitely hit at least 36 miles an hour, which is the advertised speed. That is really nice. But anyways, that was our speed test. Now let's check out these brakes. These are beautiful. I love the 203 millimeter rotor disc in the rear. But with that being said, I'm making my way up to about 20 miles an hour, and I'm gonna be braking in 3, 2. The rear locked up right away, and from this light pole to where I'm at, we're looking at about I would say between 15 and 18 feet. So not that bad considering the weight of this bike. It does weigh more because of the dual batteries and the dual motors. So from an average speed of about 20 miles an hour, we have a stopping distance of about 15 to 18 feet. And one thing to keep in mind is the brakes are brand new, so they'll only get better with time as they bed themselves in. But anyways, that was our brake test. Now let's talk about the bike itself and the riding experience. If you've never ridden a dual motor e-bike before, you have to try it. What a crazy experience. But as far as this bike in particular, man, it's got such nice center of gravity because of that second battery sitting so low. It feels really nice and very solid. You can really carve with this thing and get low to the point where I'm probably gonna hit my pedals on the road. But very, very nice. The response of the throttle is amazing. It kind of gives the rear motor like a split second of power before the front. So if I stop, I'll show you what I mean. A lot of times dual motors, like especially the front, will start like skidding, which is pretty crazy experience. But in this situation, watch, from a dead stop, full throttle, you see that there was no front tire like spinning, because it kind of eases the power for that split like first second and a half. It doesn't fully give you all the power, but there's still enough torque. Now don't get me wrong, I personally like it when that front tire is like skidding all over the place, but as far as stability, this is a safer way to do it. Now when we're at about, what is it, about 20 miles an hour, you see that? It kind of gives it the rear motor and then the front kicks in. Very interesting what they did here. Now I want to test out this suspension real quick. Okay, not bad. And there's a little jump over here I want to try. Let's see what happens. Very decent. Again, like I said earlier, this is like a generic fork, which I've seen before, but it's definitely on the higher end of generic forks, and it feels really nice. The suspension is very, very nice on this thing. As far as stability, let's see. Oh yeah, very stable, straight as an arrow. Front tire isn't wobbling all over the place. A very solid bike, due to the fact of the weight that it has. Just feels like a tank rolling down the street. As far as the sitting position and the seat, the sitting position is very comfortable for me, but the seat is on another level. Look at this thing. Hopefully it comes across on the camera. Very soft seat, very wide, very comfortable. And the beautiful thing is it actually has this passenger seat. Now, one thing I did not mention, this came with a backrest as well. I'll show you a picture of what that looks like, because technically you have these folding passenger foot pegs, so you can have an additional rider here, and they do have a backrest. I just didn't install it because I think the bike looks better without it. And there's actually an additional rear rack that you can install, which is pretty big. I'll show a picture of that as well. Very nice option to have for this bike if you are like using it for shopping or I don't know what, camping, things like that. At this point, let's do our famous hill climb. I'm in dual motor mode, mode 5. This is a pretty steep hill. Camera will never show. I think it's about a 15-degree incline if I'm not mistaken. But let's see. So far, the bike is climbing. We're not really gaining speed. We're stuck on 24 is what the bike shows. So a little bit of motor struggle, let's call it, is what I call it. But it managed to do it without an issue. Now, the GoPro never shows it, but we're pretty high up from where we just came. It's a pretty decent sized hill, and I just wanted to do this test just for those of you who live in an area with a bunch of hills and you're wondering, will this be able to handle them? It could definitely handle them. We did see the motor struggle a bit, both of them. I don't know how well the bike would do in single motor mode. It might struggle a bit more because it is a heavier bike, so I'll definitely recommend dual motor mode, but we're able to do it regardless. It is time for our off-road test. Now, keep in mind that I don't really see this thing as an off-roader per se. I see it more of as a commuter, especially with the dual batteries. You get long distances, but let's see how it does. This is what we do on this channel. We push things to the limit. Wow, the suspension is actually surprisingly good on this thing. The power is very nice. We have some inclines over here, some hills, and it's actually handling it without an issue. That is really nice to see. Now we have our biggest hill coming up right here. Let's see how do these motors work. Oh yeah, dude, I gotta let go of the power because it's too much. Oh, we got that front spinning, but yeah, it's literally gaining speed. Flying over here. Oh yeah, no problem at all. Now the GoPro never showed it, but what I just went through is a pretty steep hill, and wow, it worked really good. And I'll be honest with you, I'm highly impressed with this suspension. Like I said, it's on the higher end of generic, and for all of the weight that this bike has, it handled it superbly. Now the seat definitely helped as well. This is definitely one of the most comfortable seats I've ever had on an e-bike that I've reviewed on this channel, so that definitely helped. But wow, I'm actually really impressed with the performance of this thing. Very, very nice. Now, to be completely honest with you, oh man, it's hitting it up. To be completely honest with you, I don't know if like this would be the most extreme type of settings, off-road settings, I would ever take this bike on. This trail is way more extreme than it seems like on camera, I promise you. So anything less than this bike would absolutely demolish it. All right, that was way more impressive than I honestly thought the suspension would act. But at this point, kind of like to stop and test out the headset in particular. Tight, solid as could be. Did anything get loose? No, seems pretty good. Tires seem pretty good. So, what do I think about the Happyrun G70 Pro electric bike? Let's do things I like, things I don't like, and is this thing good value for money or not? We'll start with things I like. I really like the dual motors. As I said throughout the review, if you've never experienced that before, you have to try it. It is a very unique experience, to say the least. The second thing I really like is the dual batteries. Now, yes, they do add a bit of weight, but at the same time, that weight is turning this bike into like a rolling tank. Feels very, very solid, and you're gonna get a ton of range with this thing. I really like the brakes, especially that rear rotor. Wow, that is huge. One of the biggest I've ever seen on an electric bike, that's for sure. I'm loving the seat. Definitely one of the more comfortable seats I've ever had, and I'm truly impressed with this suspension. As I said earlier, it is on the higher end of generic, but it is generic at the end of the day, but it performed beautifully. Now, if you were taking this bike just for commuting, not doing any off-road stuff like I just did, the suspension is superb. Once you're doing a little bit of off-roading, obviously it's not the best in the world, but it did perform a lot better than I expected. Some of the miscellaneous stuff that I really like as well is the turn signals in the front and in the rear, and active brake light. That is really, really nice to have, again, especially if you're commuting with this thing. And I really like the top speed that I was able to achieve with this bike. On these things, if you pass 25 miles an hour and faster, it feels like you are flying. So being able to hit almost 35 miles an hour, that was beautiful. But now let's do things I don't like, and I always try to find at least one thing, just so I'm honest with you guys. In this situation, there is only one thing that I dislike. Now, it's a little bit nitpicky, but it's the way you switch between dual motor mode and single motor mode. It's a bit weird, and I don't fully like it. Usually you'd find a button that you can press to switch between modes while you're riding. In this particular case, there is a way to switch between them. It's not like you don't have it, but it requires you to actually stop, turn the bike off, go through this weird scenario where you hit the brake, hit the throttle, turn it back on, and it's very not convenient, to say the least. But that is the only thing that I found that I dislike about this bike. Other than that, this thing is absolutely perfect. Now, with all that stuff being said, is this thing good value for money or not? We're talking $16.99, and I will have a discount code for you guys. That will be in the description. I think that for everything that you're getting here in this total package and all this technology, it is a very good value for money. Now, I'm pretty sure I was able to go over everything there is to know about this electric bike, but in case I missed anything, please leave it in the comment section and I will do my best to answer. This has been the Happyrun G70 Pro electric bike review. I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.